So I was one of the really early adopters of smartwatches. I bought the Huawei watch back in 2015, which was at the time one of the most technically advanced smartwatches. And it was a great device, but it was bulky, it was heavy, it had its bugs, it was a little bit slow, and it didn't really have a lot of sensors that people expect of smartwatches today. In 2020, after the whole pandemic happened, I went ahead and bought a Fitbit to help motivate me to be a little bit more active, and I bought the FitBit Charge 4. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you've probably seen that Fitbit on my wrist in almost every single video. I would wear it practically every single day, wear it to sleep, wear it when I'm doing all my activities, even wearing it in the shower because it had a material band, which allowed me to help it stay clean and not get smelly or anything like that. Now, during the Prime Day sales this year, I ended up buying quite a few things, and one of those things I ended up purchasing was this Garmin Vivoactive 4, and there's quite a few reasons why I decided to hop on it. The first reason being, one of my closest friends has been talking about getting a new smartwatch. His smartwatch died, and he was looking at getting a Garmin Fenix 7 Sapphire Solar, which is a very expensive smartwatch. And, you know, I was looking at something that was a lot more affordable. And, you know, when I was helping him research some things and kind of looking through his available options, I saw some that also piqued my interest. A week or two after having those discussions with him, Prime Day sales start, and this watch ends up going on sale from $330 US to just $170 US. Now, me being me, I thoroughly hopped on to the research train, started looking at reviews, looking at if it was something that I thought would be useful for me and be an upgrade from what I was using the Charge 4 from. And as you can see, I decided to grab it, and there's a couple reasons why I decided to do that. But initially, I was really excited about the additional sensors and the kind of information that Garmin provides for free, mind you, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. But also, it just looks more like a normal watch, and it's a little bit more robust than my Charge 4 was. Now, in terms of what was in the box, we had the original straps, standard size, and these are silicone, and then we had a charging cable, and obviously the watch itself. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the features. One of the biggest features that drew me to this device, and one of the reasons that I was hesitant to get a more typical smartwatch instead of a smart band like I was using before, with battery life. But this thing's got some pretty incredible battery life. I get about 6 days worth of battery if I'm doing a lot of exercise, or 7 if I'm being a little bit more lazy. If I'm doing a lot of GPS tracking activities, maybe that would get cut down to about 4. I just recently went camping and did a lot of hikes on my camping trip. And over the course of 3 days, from being at about 90%, I went down to about 46% over 3 days of doing 3 to 4 hour hikes, which is still great. You know, with my Fitbit, that thing, as soon as you use the GPS on it, it would just absolutely tank the battery. The Garmin app is really, really good. I like it. It's a lot more complex and sophisticated than the Fitbit one, which is both good and bad, but it's got some great tracking, things like the body battery, stress tracking, which was extremely useful on my trip when I lost my luggage. Being in some of my meetings at work, I'll get a little rumble on my watch and it'll say like, hey, you should probably take a few breaths. Your stress levels seem a little bit high. And that's going off a bunch of different factors like heart rate and things like that. And the other good thing is that all of this is free, unlike where Fitbit locks a lot of data and breakdowns behind their annual subscription. And another great feature is the Pulse OX oxygen sensor. It is a battery hog, but when you decide to use it, it is great, especially with people who have conditions that relate to that. People who have sleep apnea, having the Pulse OX sensor at night turned on when the sleep tracking is on is pretty handy because it helps let you know when it believes your blood oxygen levels are getting low. Now, as you can see, I have made some changes to the watch. So first major change is this band. I don't find silicone bands very comfortable. and they're just too stiff for me. Even though the Garmin ones are very soft and they do feel pretty good, silicone stuff is just not comfortable on my skin for long periods of time. So I went and changed to a fabric band. Now, this fabric band was one that I found that had a little bit of stretch to it. It's nice, it's got some stretch, so it's a little bit more comfortable. It locks on nicely using a metal lock instead of something like Velcro. With my Fitbit, I had Velcro closures on it, and those just over time just end up not working too well. I'm really happy with this band. I'll leave a link for it in the description below. It's doing a great job. And like I said, I'll bring this watch into the shower with me sometimes to help, give the band a little bit of a wash. I can also just easily take the band off with the quick releases and give it a wash as well. But the band is comfortable and it allows me to sleep with this watch and not be too afraid to sleep with it in terms of comfort. Now, another thing I did was I ended up buying these charging adapters because I don't like having to bring a single cable around with me all the time. I like being able to have a cable in particular places. So this one is one that I keep on my desk, for example. I have one that I keep up in my bathroom because with the battery life and how amazing it is, sometimes when I shower or when I'm shaving my head, for example, I'll just quickly toss the watch onto the charger while doing that. And I, for the most part, keep my battery between 60 and 75% most of the time. I bought these right angle adapters. They have a bunch of different ones. They have ones for lightning. They have ones for USB-C, which is what I have here. And it just allows you to plug it into a USB-C cable and has a much more natural charging position so that your watch isn't just sitting on its side all the time. So if I plug that in and then I let it sit there, it sits flat instead of on its side. With the normal charger, because it goes in straight, right? Your watch ends up sitting like this all the time, which to me isn't as ideal. And we'll go over a reason for that in a second. I've also purchased a screen protector. I haven't put it on yet, but I do have a scratch on here. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get it on video camera. I might have to reside on getting it on a picture. Oh, you can kind of see it right there up at the top corner here. Funny enough, I scratched it on my first trip with it. I bought this watch immediately before going on my 2.5-week trip to Europe, and I scratched it against a post in the airport. Though when I've been camping and doing a bunch of other activities, I've never scratched the screen. But with my experience so far, I would highly suggest getting a screen protector, and I do have one, I just haven't put it on yet. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about things that I've used it for so far and what I enjoy using it for. I'm a walker. I really enjoy walks. I don't run. I don't know if you can tell by my physique, but I'm not much of a runner. But walks I do like. Hikes I really enjoy. As I was saying, when I go camping, I do a lot of hikes. And since I had this watch immediately before going to Europe for 2.5 weeks, in Europe you do a lot of walking. I was averaging about 25 to 30,000 steps a day on certain legs of my trip, which is quite a bit. And this watch came in super handy. I really enjoyed being able to keep track of all of that. I enjoyed being able to see the amount of estimated calories I was burning, things like that, especially with all the food that I was eating. I also do a fair bit of cycling. I like doing a lot of trail riding. I have a mountain bike and I do a lot of trails. I also do a loop around my neighborhood. Using the watch for that is great. It's what I also use my Fitbit a lot for, but the cycle tracking on the Garmin seems to be quite a bit better. And again, that GPS tracking is fantastic. The other nice thing is that this is rated to 5 atmospheres, and Garmin marks that as something that you can use for swimming. So I have used this while swimming quite a bit, whether that is in lake water, ocean water, or a pool. I've been using it quite a bit and it's great. I enjoy it. It keeps track of everything. And I like the fact that I don't have to take my watch off, because then sometimes when you do that, you forget to put it back on and then you miss a whole walk back or something like that. So I do like being able to keep my watch on for all those kinds of activities. And the final thing is golf. I do golf with my father quite a bit, and I like being able to use a singular device for all of my activities instead of having to have a specific golfing watch that I would have to put on, and then those are usually not very comfortable either. So being able to track all my golfing stuff on here is really, really cool. And Garmin's golfing stuff is great, and their app integration for it is great as well. So now I kind of want to finalize this with some pros and cons and whether or not I'm happy about changing over from my FitBit Charge 4 to the Garmin Vivoactive 4. So the pros with this thing is the battery life. For a watch with its display style and the amount of stuff that you get on it, the fact that the battery can last me a week without charging it is incredible. I normally, as I mentioned, like keeping it between 70 and 80%. Although on a regular long week where I'm not at home all the time, I'll probably keep it around between 50 and maybe 75%. I've never gotten below 20%, and I try to keep it away from being between 90 and 100 just for battery longevity reasons. Another pro is that at the price that I paid, that sale price, it is an incredible value. For $170, this thing is absolutely killer. And hopefully with the upcoming Black Friday deals, that kind of price will be shown again, whether for the Vivoactive 4 or something comparable from the Garmin line. Really happy with it. And again, that value is just unprecedented and I couldn't beat it. Now, another major pro that was actually a surprising thing that I was happy about was the comfort. And one of the reasons that I stuck with the Charge 4 for so long and never went to a full-size watch is because I liked the fact that the Charge 4, I never really realized I was wearing it. Sometimes I would forget I was wearing it. And I was worried to switch over, especially because I like sleeping with my smart devices. I don't sleep very well a lot of the time. And I like being able to see the data as to what's going on while I'm sleeping. And I was worried that if I switched over to a full-size watch, it would not be nearly as comfortable and it would make my sleeping even more difficult. But I'm happy to say, especially once changing over the band to the material stretch band, the comfort is fantastic, and there are some times that I do forget that I'm wearing the watch. It's not bulky, it's not nearly as heavy as my original Huawei watches, where that thing, like, you could probably knock somebody out if you swung it at someone. This watch is very comfortable, and again, when I'm wearing it, when I'm not wearing it, sometimes I'll forget that I'm not wearing it, sometimes I'll forget that I am wearing it, and that's a pretty good testament for how comfortable it is and how naturally it just fits on me. Another really big pro for me is the performance of this thing. I've had no major stutters, I haven't had any app crashes, I haven't had any issues with the device locking up or having any issues. I haven't had to hard reset it. And that is really nice for me. That was another big worry for me. Being an early adopter of the smartwatches, my Huawei watch would constantly get very stuttery. It would get slow. It was doing a lot more because it was basically an Android watch. But I was really worried about hopping over to a full-size watch at a lower price point for that reason. But I'm happy to say that this thing has been great and I haven't had any issues performance-wise. Another big pro for me is the data metrics. If you love data, whether it is useful data or not for you, Garmin is amazing at that. They track so many different things. You can have so many different kinds of breakdowns of the kind of data that your watch collects. And I'm really happy that all of that is available and all of that's available for free. One of the big reasons that I was kind of getting icky and annoyed with Fitbit is that they were locking more and more things behind paywalls. And I like the fact that Garmin kind of gives me everything without me having to pay for it. And I have the ability to see as much of the data as I want or minimize that data and only see the things that I actually care about. So I really do like the fact that all that data is available if I do care about it, but it's also not overwhelming because I can kind of pick and choose which ones I actually do want to use. Now for the cons. As much as the data and the tracking and the sensors on this are great, Garmin's sleep tracking is not great, especially compared to Fitbit. Fitbit sleep tracking is where they excel very, very well over all the other brands. And it's one thing that is definitely lacking and that I'm a little bit disappointed on because I do rely on it quite a bit. I'm hoping that it improves over time. And, you know, as their algorithms change, I use a few other apps to help with it, but the sleep tracking is a little bit of a disappointment. And the only other con I have is that now I want a better watch. As I mentioned, my buddy Andreas really wanted to get that Phoenix Sapphire, and now I kind of want one of those. I can't afford it, but I really want one. And every time I see another one of these higher end Garmin watches, I'm really interested, and I debate with myself, should I buy it or not? And that's going to be something I'm going to struggle with for the next year or so until maybe I do buy a nicer watch. But yeah, in terms of cons, pretty short list. I am extremely happy with this device. It came to me in a perfect time where I ended up getting a lot of use out of it, and I will continue to get a lot of use out of it. So for my final thoughts, even at its regular price, this watch is probably one of the best value bang for your buck options that you're going to get. You're not going to break the bank with it. It often does go on sale, so you don't normally have to pay full price for it. And the Vivoactive 4 or the Instinct, which is a little bit more rugged, slightly different kind of display, they're both really, really good options for a value, data-focused smartwatch. And again, like I mentioned, if you wait until Black Friday or the Christmas holiday sales, you might see this watch go down for that same price I paid during the Prime Day sales, maybe even a better price. So keep an eye on it. I will leave links down in the description for the watch, for the band, for the charging adapters, and any other accessories that I do find to be very helpful with this, like the screen protector as well. I will leave those down in the description below. So I'm curious, does anybody who watches my videos wear smart devices, and which smart device are you using? What do you like about it? What do you dislike about it? Leave those down in the comment section below. But I do hope you found this video helpful, and if not, I at least hope you found it interesting. If so, I'd really do appreciate if you like and subscribe. And like before, if you have any comments or questions, you can leave them down in the comment section below, and I will try to get to them all as quick as I can. Big thanks to my patron sponsors, Thoughts, Time, and Step Back, and thank you for watching to the end of this video. If you do want to see any of my other product reviews, you can go ahead and check out the playlist right up here. And as always, stay safe out there. I'll see you next Saturday.